Folks, let's talk about strikes. Strikes are cool. This concludes my opinion. Now let's get to the facts. All right. I have a problem, a pretty significant problem, with how strikes are discussed online, particularly in the left sphere. Okay? So coming up soon, we have the October 15th general strike. That's just 3 days from recording. Here's the website dedicated to this cause. So you got a little countdown right here. That's nice. A general strike is a strike action in which a substantial portion of a total labor force in a city, region, or country participates. So here's what a strike is. Here's why you should strike, which I'm going to agree with pretty much all these reasons. Our goals: 25% corporate tax rate, free healthcare for all. I like the no loopholes here. 12 weeks paid maternity and paternity leave, $20 minimum wage, 4-day work week, stricter environmental regulations on corporations, and what you can do. Abstain from going into work. Do not participate in economic activity on October 15th. Contact your local representatives to express our demands, etc., etc. So, I hate this. Oh, I despise it. I despise it so much. I hate it so much. You have to be so fucking naive to think this would work. Folks, let me talk to you a bit about how strikes work, okay? If you want, you can do research, okay? I'm not gonna go take you on a fucking 45-minute history tour. General strikes don't work without appropriate infrastructure. Are you fucking kidding me? Just randomly, some people who saw a website don't go into work starting on October 15th? Do you have any idea what kind of infrastructure it would take to facilitate a national strike? Nationwide strike? With nothing more than an internet campaign? No targeting, no geographic, not even a sectoral strike, just a national strike, anyone, everywhere? Ridiculous. You would just get fired. What is this? Do not participate in economic activity starting on October 15th? Who wrote this? A college student? What, do you have enough fucking canned frosting in your fridge to last you for the next week? Fucking idiots. Lefties are utterly incapable of leading any kind of fucking labor organizing because they have no fucking idea what it actually takes to manage a strike. Okay? Striking, real big strikes, general strikes require massive fucking on-the-ground work to facilitate. They are not like, guys, have you ever thought of the reason why we've, in the course of my streaming career, okay, why we've had like 15 different general strikes and nothing has ever happened? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that? This happens every couple of months. Yeah, we're finally going to show the bourgeois. And then what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. We had 15 general strikes. If you were listening to Twitter, we probably had 500. The reason you haven't noticed any of this shit happening, the reason you haven't experienced any effects or outcomes, is because strikes only work when you're capable of building enough infrastructure to ensure that a real significant portion of the entire general population strikes. When you do it sectorally, you need to do it enough to target specific industries. When you do it regionally, you need to do it well enough to shut down that area's economy. And if you're going to do it nationally, then you'd better be able to shut down the national economy, because otherwise it doesn't work. Whenever you do these harebrained, half-assed national strikes, all you're really doing is disencouraging real working people. All you're doing is getting, Aunt Sally and Uncle Benjamin, who just heard about this strike and are really disillusioned, but they want to make a difference, fired. You're getting them fired, okay? When regular working class people briefly, adjacently come into contact with these stupid, dumbfuck lefty strike advocacy programs, try it, and then either nothing happens or they suffer consequences, they will never ever participate in a strike again. You understand that? A bad strike experience motivated by a bunch of college dorm fuckers doing nothing more than posting like Twitter hashtag campaigns. That is, you will never succeed in motivating real action. And also, what are these goals? 25% corporate tax rate, no loopholes? Oh, no loopholes. Oh, wow. That's what they'll say when the media people are like looking at the, the strikers, like, what do you want? We want no loopholes. Congratulations. Free healthcare for all, 12 weeks paid maternity and paternity leave, $20 minimum wage, 4-day work week, ban single use and microplastics. Have you ever heard of specificity? Is this a joke? Why stop here? End all oil and gas and natural gas. End all coal. End all coal. Stop war. Abolish the military. Get rid of borders. Yeah, this is like a joke at the expense of lefties. All these goals are so meaninglessly broad. Like, not you would be lucky with a nationwide strike to get a single one of these. A single one of these with a nationwide strike that was successful. Okay? But you're right, this does read like a satire. I love the red too. It's very, I got all my understanding of strikes from labor movements over a century old. Very fashionable. Thank you. Uh, yeah, this is so non-specific, so disconnected from what real working people are going to be striking for. You think people are going to risk their jobs striking from their business for this? Like, the media people come up. What do you want? I want, pulls out little list, free Medicare for all, 12 weeks paid maternity and paternity leave, $20 minimum wage, $4 work week. And like the camera guy with like the big media cameras like cracking up a little bit. Look, I'll calm down a bit, okay? I understand the people who started this have good intentions. I saw people talking about it in chat just a little bit ago. I have nothing but respect for your motivations. But you have to understand that reckless advocacy for general strikes is as destructive as like Chaz. Remember? The autonomous zone? It's it's an overambitious, underplanned, poor demonstration of our values. And people died at Chaz because it was a stupid fucking idea. But there were people who were acting like Chaz was the beginning of some kind of decentralized anarcho-syndicalist uprising the whole world around. Yeah, the best way to defeat an argument or position is to advocate for it poorly. It's very true. If you want to be pro-labor, I mean really help out the working class, then you can't just do it with Twitter hashtags and general strikes. Most of America isn't on Twitter, and even if they were, they wouldn't give a fuck, okay? It's not going to work. What you need to do is work on building local infrastructure that's capable of supporting the necessary welfare and media and mutual aid apparatuses to actually sustain this. And it's not going to be a general strike. You would be lucky to get a regional strike or a sectoral strike. But those things are possible. And I'd like to show you guys an example of an upcoming strike that I actually have some hope for. The IATSE strike. IATSE. It stands for the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. And essentially, it's an ancient labor organization, covers over 150,000 workers all over the performing arts. And a strike from them would essentially shut down the media. Now, this is a good potential strike. Essentially, right now, a strike is being risked because there's some communication breakdowns going on as a product of the renegotiation of what I think was a 3-year contract. Now, there are some elements to this potential strike that are very, very promising. First of all, it's being facilitated by a union. Unions are good for facilitating strikes because that means you have pre-existing infrastructure, which has contacts to people. You have email lists. You have internal voting being done. You have a way of securing cooperation within your union. And additionally, when people fuck up within a union and go to work anyway, they get sanctioned essentially by that union. There are severe social consequences to strike breaking. People don't do it, because it fucking sucks. It's just not a common thing. Unions are really good at getting people to actually commit to the process of striking. Another thing that makes this strike potentially very effective is the fact that it affects an industry which is very, very large in its reach, but very small in how it's consolidated. Hollywood and what it produces is felt the world around. Seriously, any shutdown to Hollywood production is felt globally. It's Hollywood. But most of what Hollywood does is filtered through a relatively narrow industry. It's possible with only 150,000 people in the union, and that's a pretty big union, but still, with only 150,000 people to essentially crack down on a global media monopoly. That is incredibly powerful. Do you understand? So not only do we have the infrastructure to support a strike, we also have an effective target. We have a direct we have a very direct and a very vulnerable thing that we're targeting with it. Now, as I understand it, the IATSE's union, they're looking for things like better pay, better treatment of their workers. In reality, I hope they strike, not just because I think it's fun, but also because I want you guys to see what a good strike can look like. It reminds me in many ways of the Writers Guild of America strike. Were any of you old enough to understand the consequences of this back in the day? From November 5th, 2007 to February 12th, 2008, all 12,000 film and television screenwriters of the American Labor Union's Writers Guild of America East and Writers Guild of America West went on strike. And folks, TV sucked for that period of time. They kept on ahead producing television shows during the writers' strikes, and without any writers, they fucking sucked. Remember Heroes? Don't even remind me. God, the writer's strike lasted a long, long, long time, multiple months, and it was felt the world around because not only were they capable of meaningfully limiting labor to that industry, they also were targeting an industry that had a disproportionately large effect on global culture. You understand? That's some powerful stuff. And it's estimated that their withdrawal from that their strike it cost billions to Hollywood. No, I never watched Pushing Daisies, I'm afraid. Um yeah, stupid question, but how did they earn a living during that protest during that period? That is an excellent question. I actually do not know whether or not the unions directly subsidize that pay. That's actually something I don't know. Let's learn together. Chat, does anyone have an article on that? What did the union do to secure pay? Did they just pay the salaries directly? Did they save up a bunch? Were they able to save up that much? Were they able to secure strike pay? Were they able to continue getting paid by the companies? See, I imagine a lot of those workers were salaried, right? Wouldn't that mean they would continue to get paid even if they striked, as long as they didn't get fired, of course? Uh, here, hold on. Um, Writers Guild strike. How were they paid? Writers' strike ended after this, after that. Well, if it was just union dues, then they must have saved up quite a bit in order to make that work. Let's see. Oh, was there a section of the wiki article that talks about it? Writer's strike ends after 100 days. Let me see. I don't see anything here about the unions. Sake Tanuki will handle it all. Perhaps. Um, well, maybe that's something we could look into more in the future. I don't have an immediate answer to that question, but it is something worth considering. Did they accomplish anything with the strikes? Yeah, they did. Here, hold on. Let me see. Conclusion to the Writers Guild of America strikes. Response, general public, agents, work stoppages, outcomes. There we go. On November 19th, 2008, the Writers Guild of America announced they were filing arbitration for not honoring the agreement that ended the strike. Oh, no, wait. This is the outcomes after the fact from the work stoppages. What was the total outcome to this strike? Issues in the strike, negotiations and strike activity, strategy and tactic, effect, intelligence, response. Let's see. Talk show host, radio producer. Yeah, let me see. Outcomes of Writers Guild strike resulted in. Okay, here we go. Negotiators for the striking writers reached a tentative agreement, and the board of both guilds unanimously approved the deal. Striking writers voted on February 12th, 2008 on whether to lift the restraining order, with 92.5% voting to end the strike. Filter on strike for this time. The big win for the Writers Guild was jurisdiction over new media, which was precedent setting. Streamers would have to hire WGA writers on shows over certain budgets. Other than that, they received a new percentage payment on the distributor's gross for digital distribution based on the deal that the DGA made during the strike. So it seems like they secured two major things. One is that they would get union preferentiality for streaming and new media. And two, that they would get a percentage of the payment over digital distribution revenue based on precedent. So yeah, that's cool, I think. Let me take a look at the video game voice actors, because that's another one people are bringing up in chat. Video game voice actors strike. The 2016 to 2017 video game voice actor strike. I remember this, but not as well. See, one of the reasons why I remember the Writers Guild strike so much is because Hollywood has a lot of unions, but my dad isn't in any of them. My dad works in visual effects, and there is no visual effects unionization like industry-wide. I remember talking about that. Let me see. This was a strike started in October 2016, failed contract renegotiation terms. That's often like that, isn't it? Principally, the union sought to have actors and voice and motion capture artists. It was the first such unionized strike in the video game industry. Because of the commonly long development period for video games, the strike's impact on the industry was initially expected to be felt for years. A deal between SAG-AFTRA and the companies was reached on September 23, 2017, effectively ending the strike after a year. 340 days. Wow. It was the longest strike in the history of the Screen Actors Guild. The agreement was ratified by SAG-AFTRA's board of directors and approved by majority vote in November 2017, creating a new 3-year contract. Well, what was the new 3-year contract? 2017 agreement. Here we go. The agreement does not include residuals as SAG-AFTRA sought for, but does include a sliding scale bonus payment for each recording session a voice actor participates in, starting at $75 for the first session and $2,100 for 10 or more sessions. Keith Farley, the chair of the SAG-AFTRA Negotiations Committee, said these payments are, quote, significantly larger now than what we had 11 months ago, end quote, and praised the new structure. That's nice. Video game companies must provide additional transparencies for roles voice actors are to perform under the new terms. While they do not need to name the game or character to maintain confidentiality when offering roles, companies must provide actors with project code names, gameplay genre, if the work is based on an existing franchise or character, and whether the work will include profanity, racial slurs, obscure technical terms, sexual or violent overtures, or physical stunts. Interesting. So I guess before there was no obligation to provide any info whatsoever on what type of roles voice actors would be voicing in for. The agreement will also have SAG-AFTRA and the video game companies continue to work on addressing issues related to vocal stress within recording sessions. That is so interesting. I didn't actually know that. The entertainment industry has historically been a really good vector for good sectoral strikes because of their wide-reaching impact. But folks, what we're looking at right now is something that you can see potentially in any sector. Yes, for example, truck drivers. A sectoral strike in truck drivers would literally shut the nation's economy down, you know? Would just obliterate our economy instantly. I guarantee you, if there was a sectoral strike affecting perhaps a quarter of truck drivers, it would last less than a month before pretty much any kowtowing would take place. Our economy relies on them so much that everything would break. It would break so quickly. And that is an industry ripe for potential unionization and furthermore sectoral bargaining. So just, I guess what I'm trying to get at is please, please, please be realistic when it comes to how to manage big strikes, okay? Because when done well, they can potentially be unbelievably helpful. They can be so, so, so effective. But when advocated for poorly, not only do we cheapen the severity of real strikes, we rope in people who might be on board with their idea and then disappoint them with a poor implementation. It's very important that we do better than this. So don't just call out random national general strikes with no prior infrastructure. Don't just announce these fucking Twitter hashtags that'll do nothing but bait and disappoint people. Okay, don't do it. Instead, uh, wait, be quiet, and build unions. Unionize. And I'll talk. I've done multiple stream segments with IWW organizers. I have stuff in my channel. If you want to know how to unionize, I have content on my channel that you can look at for advice on how to get started with that. It's a hard process, but it's worthwhile, and those unions are the bedrock of effective strikes. So please, God, give it a try and do not half-ass it. All right?